Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm a Big Blaze and I want to dive into how Mythic Plus is shaping up. It's been about 3 weeks since Season 2 of the War Within launched. There's been a lot of changes, some balancing tweaks, and overall a pretty fresh feel to the dungeons this season. In this video I'll talk about the constant dungeon balancing, class changes, tanking improvements, and some other thoughts. Let's not waste any more time. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel. Let's get right into it. First off, let's talk about dungeon balancing. One thing I've really appreciated about this season is that it feels like Blizzard is actively looking at how the Mythic Plus scene is evolving and making changes accordingly. We've seen some solid updates to dungeons and it's clear they are trying to keep the experience fresh while making adjustments. For example, Darkframe Cleft was a dungeon that felt a bit too easy early on. Blizzard addressed this by reducing the timer by 2 minutes, but at the same time, they increased the cast time for certain mobs that were a bit problematic to handle. I think this was a smart change. It makes the dungeon more of a challenge without completely punishing players. There's a clear effort to make sure dungeons aren't just face roll easy or frustratingly hard. On the flip side, we've got Priory of the Sacred Flame, which is currently one of the most difficult dungeons in this season. Blizzard responded by increasing the timer by 1.5 minutes, which I think was a great move. It feels like they are really trying to tune these dungeons to make sure they are challenging but still doable within the time limits. More about this dungeon in a few seconds. Even though I think they are doing a good job with this constant balancing, there are still some tweaks that need to be made. For example, the change to the timer in Rookery feels a bit tight. Now, the last boss takes so long to kill that the timer can feel really restrictive, especially in random groups. It's one of those changes that sounds good on paper, but in practice it can create unnecessary pressure. Maybe a slight increase to the timer, or even a better solution, decrease in boss health, could solve that. Moving on, let's talk about class changes. If you remember, last season had a ton of class changes, but for some reason, the changes this season just feel better. Blizzard isn't overhauling classes to the point where they are completely irrelevant. Instead, they are making more subtle tweaks that help classes stay relevant while buffing specs that need it. What I find interesting this season is the shift in the meta. Last season we saw a lot of AUG and enhanced comps dominating Mythic Plus, but now this season is definitely favoring caster compositions. The only real exception to the trend is Unholy Decays. Those guys are holding their ground and blood is life. But overall, I really like the shift to casters being more viable, and I think it's great for the diversity of comps that we are seeing in hierarchies. It's refreshing to see that classes are getting some attention without being completely broken down or forgotten. Blizzard is definitely moving in the right direction here, and I'm excited to see how the meta will continue to shift throughout the season. Now, probably one of the biggest and most positive changes this season: how tanking feels. If you remember last season, tanking was rough. It was honestly one of the worst seasons for tanks, if not the worst. Tanks were under so much pressure from tankbuster abilities that the overall difficulty just made the role feel pretty miserable. Don't even get me started on Grim Battle. That dungeon was an absolute nightmare for tanks. But this season, Blizzard has really turned things around. Tankbusters are still around, but they feel a lot more manageable. The damage is more predictable, and I think Blizzard is doing a great job of keeping an eye on how tanking is evolving. For example, they reduced the damage from Mudslide ability in the Floodgate by 25% because it was a bit too problematic, and that kind of active response is exactly what we need. Overall, tanking this season feels a lot better and it rewards skilled tanking a lot more. There's still more challenge, but it's not as overwhelming as it was last season. It feels like tanks are actually in a decent place right now, and I'm happy about that. Now I do want to quickly touch on Priory of the Sacred Flame again. I mentioned it earlier, but I think this dungeon still needs some tuning. It's definitely one of my least favorites right now. From the mob count to the overall pacing, it feels off. The weirdest thing for me is that the mob count in this dungeon is just so strange. You have to pull a lot before you can hit the 100% mark, and it just feels like it's dragging on unnecessarily. I do think this dungeon can be a good one, but I'd really like to see some changes in this dungeon. Whether it's tweaking mob counts, reducing the density, or adjusting the pacing, something needs to happen to make it feel more fluid. Let me know in the comments what changes you would like to see in Priory of the Sacred Flame. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, overall, Mythic Plus in Season 2 has definitely seen some positive changes. The constant balancing of dungeons keeps things fresh, class changes feel more thoughtful, and tanking has improved significantly. Sure, there are still a few tweaks needed, but Blizzard is clearly putting an effort to keep things engaging and balanced. If they keep up with this kind of active feedback, I think we're in a really fun season. Let me know what do you think about the state of Mythic Plus right now. Are you enjoying the changes, or do you think there's still a lot to fix? Drop your thoughts in the comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this content. Thank you for watching, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.